Many of our foreign trading partners have manipulated the currency, stolen intellectual property in order to make their manufacturing economies more competitive. At the same time, we have taxes, regulations, and unions that impact negatively our manufacturers. Are you concerned about manufacturing in America, and what could you do as a congressman to encourage the growth of American manufacturing, if anything?
But having lived and worked in China for 4 years, you can quickly understand the degree to which they are manipulating and participating in their economy. You would see on the trucks there were certain license plates that were white color. Those are the Army trucks. You could see to what degree the Army was involved in their economy. It definitely is not a free trade. Is not a level playing field. So we have to hold China and our other trading partners accountable for operating on a level trade playing field with us. In terms of our own taking care of our own businesses here, it's all about regulation. It's all about not saddling them with additional costs that we're putting on our businesses, but the other countries are not putting on their businesses. We have to have a level playing field.
I think the biggest thing that the Congress can do is free up energy. Energy drives manufacturing. The cost of energy has a huge impact on whether or not we're effective and efficient in manufacturing. The other piece of it is how much we have creativity in terms of redesigning our systems to be more efficient. Creativity doesn't come when you have government control. Creativity comes when you have entrepreneurs willing to risk capital, and for that you need economic freedom. You need the ability for those people to invest money and expect that they're going to make some money and not have it all taken away. If I have a lot of money and you want me to create a job and a company, and then you tell me you're going to take 60% of anything I managed to squeak by with, why would I do that? We need to bring back our entrepreneurs, lower the corporate income tax rate to a rate that's competitive with the rest of the world, get investment capital back here so we can create more manufacturing jobs for the future.
That's a great answer. I stood up and started mentioning energy, and I was like, all right, scratch that off. You know, the truth is that is a key. I mentioned earlier that energy, we're about to enter the energy age. And I think as a nation, we should be strategically allowing our businesses to go after that energy, because I believe that's the portal through which we can attract more business back. The amount of capital that we'll bring into this nation, foreign capital in this nation through exporting energy, I think would be key. But more specifically, I would say, to add, that the key word is deregulate. This term of trade wars and such, listen, our nation can kick anybody's butt despite any cards stacked against them. The United States has proven it over and over again. We are a land of innovators. If we just get the government off the back of our businesses, we will find a way to kick their butts and compete. I would add to that then, how about lower and consistent taxes? You know, at a corporate level, I've seen the cost of regulation and what it costs businesses in terms of have to supply all these things. Get rid of Dodd-Frank. Get rid of these onerous bills that take so much money.
I think the closed union shop has done a lot to kill our manufacturing industries. I really do. You look at the auto industry, and you know, they were killed, at least temporarily, by the unions, and they would have come back a lot stronger than they have if the unions were remained deceased. As they were in a situation where all the union contracts could have been bankrupted out, all of the assets could have been sold off to new and more capable managers, and we would be probably selling 18 million cars a year. But instead, we're down to 12 or 13. Cars would be cheaper, we would drive safer cars, they would be better designed, there would be more manufacturers. That's probably number one that's killed our manufacturing business. And beyond that, the taxes and the regulation, it steals people's hard-earned dollars, kills their motivation to work.
All right, now we're getting tough questions. It's getting warm in here. All this hot air, it's getting really warm in here. All right, we start with Mr. Eichner.
Yes, sir.
Public employee unions. 1 minute. Are they a problem? How do we deal with it?
A big problem. Even FDR, I mean, our president who brought so much socialism to this country, recognized the danger of public sector unions. Because you have this intertwining of interests now between the bureaucrats, who have become the nobility class, and the politicians, the political class. And we're the ones losing. We have to get a handle on public sector unions. We have to get rid of the tenure rules. My wife is a public school teacher. I've gotten a visibility into our public education system over the last 5 years since she decided to become a teacher midlife. And we can talk more, I can talk for a long time about these issues, but that public sector union is causing most of the problems within our educational system. And we have to restrict the power, the ability to just grab money out of people's paychecks and use it for political means. We have to get rid of that, and we have to get rid of tenure rules.
Public unions should not exist. If you boil it down to what it is at its base, it's a morally corrupt idea. And they shouldn't exist, and you mentioned it, even FDR, one of the bastions of Democratic, four-term president, said that they shouldn't exist either. And in the same breath, if you want to win this race, you have to send someone back that can articulate that while public unions shouldn't exist, it's okay for private unions to exist. I'm happy to support private unions if they want to exist and compete freely on the free market. They can provide a better product, they can educate their people better, and through the result create innovation. Fine, you have to be willing to support private unions in the same breath so that the left can't come up and just say, hey, you don't care about any union job. Which is why in my vision and my plan for the ports and stuff, you would see a number of high wage paying, blue collar union, private union jobs come through. But when in terms of public unions, they shouldn't exist, we got to get rid of them.
Well, the states apparently do have the right to forbid collective bargaining by public unions, and that is up to the states to do. It's obviously a lot worse problem at the state municipal level because there's a greater concentration of employees who can bribe the people signing their paycheck, which is what's happened. But again, it goes back to closed shop. There's a lot of Republicans who are public employees. There really are. I've talked to a lot of them. They want the same things you do. They want great schools. They want efficient government. I talked to a big shot with Medicare yesterday, by coincidence, and he told me there's $250 million in waste that can be cut tomorrow from Medicare if we just stop ineffective treatments. So, there's a lot of things that need to be done, but I don't think the Constitution says you can't form an association. I just think that it should not be a closed association. The states, however, can do what they want, and they probably should look hard.
Yeah, I would actually argue that the issue is not so much the public unions as it is the politicians who give them the free check and the blank check. And Scott Walker is a great example of a governor pushing back hard, taking back control of that situation and making a more even playing field for them. So there is an incestuous relationship, unfortunately, between the politicians and the public unions, and it takes strong politicians to break that.
January 1st, 2013 is known as Tax-Mageddon, because if the Congress does not extend the push tax cuts, taxes go up on January 1 for everyone. In addition, there are Obamacare taxes, others scheduled to go into effect. And many commentators think that the spirit of Tax-Mageddon is what's inhibiting our economic recovery. If you're elected, you won't take office until after January 1, sometime around the middle of January. What could you do as newly elected congressman if Congress fails to extend those tax cuts? What can you do to ease the impact of Tax-Mageddon and repair the damage once you get in office?
If Tax-Mageddon does in fact happen, you have to immediately begin to push. I think we're going to have a new bastion of leadership in the House, so I think we can immediately begin to correct that right away by either going back to them or how about expanding the tax cuts, and specifically with regard to businesses. But that said, if that's not politically viable, then what you do is you own the power of the purse strings. And you start to free up businesses through deregulation and cutting funding for agencies that are stopping businesses from competing. Now, in that scenario, I would still advocate very hardly that we have to bring down the taxes. You have to send someone out that can actually articulate to this nation and to the people of this district that you can, in fact, lower taxes because it will grow jobs fast enough that will actually increase revenues to the government. And if you couple that with strategic deregulation, this nation is going to grow so fast, we can get our way out of it. Social Security becomes viable for another 30 years if you drop unemployment back down to 4%. So that's what happens. You lower taxes, deregulate, businesses grow, and we get ourselves out of this mess.
Tax-a-getting is kind of a fraud in the sense that you're getting taxed anyway. Whenever there's a deficit, it gets paid for. Right now, it's getting paid for by depreciated dollars. You're getting taxed in the amount of that deficit by depreciation of the buying power of your dollar. They're just trying to hide it from you. That's the reality of it. The only way we can cut taxes is to cut the deficit, because the taxes are there anyway. And you say to yourself, well, we're in a deflationary environment. Yes, we are. However, you would get a lot more for your dollar right now. You get more higher interest rate if the government wasn't suppressing interest rates to finance their debt right now. So you're being taxed on every level anyway. We're at tax-a-getting right now.
And whatever the situation is when we get there in January, we got to push forward on our initiatives to have a flatter, fairer tax rate, create more jobs, push back on deregulation, to create more jobs, create more energy in the economy. As Doug said, the deficit is there, regardless of what the tax-a-getting is or is not. We have got to go after the deficit quickly and aggressively. So I don't think whether it's tax-a-getting is there or not, we still push forward on our key initiatives.
I'm tired of the Democrats always saying we have to raise taxes when they mean raise tax revenues. And they don't distinguish between tax rates and tax revenues. And we let them take that argument and we don't challenge them on it. I do too, but a lot of us don't. And on TV, I don't hear it challenged enough. We need to fight that battle and say, oh, you want to raise tax revenues, so you're in support of lower tax rates. That's what I need to hear every time I see a Republican on TV that gets that, oh, you don't want to raise tax revenues. No, I do want to raise tax revenues, because that's the only way we're going to balance the budget. But I look at history and I look at evidence. Challenge the Democrats who say, oh, well, we're scientifically based. Okay, have you looked at the evidence? When we lower tax rates, what happens to tax revenues every single time? Revenues go up because GDP goes up. That's reality. That's scientific evidence.
This is number
Is that
17.
starting? Thank you. All right.
Number 17.
New question. On the audience.